In this video, I'm going to be going over the best non-legendary Pokemon that are currently available in Pokemon Go. And every single one of these Pokemon are about as good as a legendary, and some of them are even better than legendaries. These are definitely ones you will want to keep in your collection, especially when it comes to raid battles and PvP. Alright, so with that said, let's get right into it. Alright, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So today we're going to be looking at 10 Pokemon which I consider to be the best non-legendary Pokemon in Pokemon Go. These are all Pokemon that I consider to be the most useful. They're going to be really good specifically for raid battles, Team Go Rocket battles, but also gym attack as well as PvP. These are Pokemon that if you were to ever get them, you need to make sure you invest into them and keep them in your collection. Alright, so let's start this list with an obvious choice, and this is going to be the Dark and Rock type Pokemon Tyranitar. Specifically the Mega or Shadow version of this Pokemon. It's going to be top tier when it comes to raids. But even for PvP, you will find that this Pokemon can be quite useful, especially in the Master League, and if you need it as a PvE Pokemon, it's going to be really good. The one thing about Tyranitar that makes it extremely good is the fact that it can be considered a top tier rock type or a top tier dark type. Especially its Mega Evolution, you will find that it is a top counter for a lot of different raid bosses. I really do think this is one of the best non-legendary Pokemon you absolutely need to have. Now the next Pokemon is going to be Gardevoir. Now the thing is with Gardevoir is that unlike Tyranitar, it's actually going to be top tier for only one of its typings, and that is of course the fairy typing. But just like Tyranitar, this is considered a top tier raid attacker if you use its Mega Evolution. Gardevoir is a very powerful Pokemon. It's one of the Pokemon that I've used quite often, especially because there's plenty of raid bosses that are weak against fairy types, and then in general, this is a very useful Pokemon for attacking gyms or whether it be Team Go Rocket battles. It is a very powerful Pokemon, but I really do think it's going to shine once you can get its Shadow form. I think the Shadow version of Gardevoir is going to be incredibly powerful, so if you were to ever get one of those, you should definitely power it up. It's going to be extremely useful. And the next Pokemon that I consider to be a top tier non-legendary Pokemon is going to be Lucario. And just like Gardevoir and Tyranitar, this Pokemon does have a Mega Evolution, and when it comes to Mega Evolutions, it's going to be the absolute best when it comes to fighting type raid damage. I really do think this Pokemon is one of the best. It's a glass cannon, so it does deal quite a bit of DPS at the expense of having low defense. So for PvP, you often do not see this Pokemon ever get used, but whether it be raid battles or Team Go Rocket battles, this is going to be a Pokemon you're going to find yourself using quite a bit. Now the next Pokemon that I'm going to talk about is one that you will often not see on a list like this, but in my opinion, it is incredibly useful for a variety of different reasons. First and foremost, it does have a Mega Evolution, and it's a high DPS Pokemon. And I'm of course talking about Sceptile. Sceptile is actually a really good Pokemon when it comes to needing a grass type, especially because its Mega Evolution is often considered top tier. But the one thing about Sceptile is that it is a glass cannon. It's going to deal a lot of damage on top of not having a lot of health and defense, very similar to Lucario, but it does deal quite a bit of damage. So when it comes to non-legendaries, I will say that Sceptile is one you should not sleep on. Now the next Pokemon is one that a lot of people would expect to be on this list, and that is actually going to be Dragonite. Dragonite is kind of like one of those tried and true Pokemon, and yeah, in some cases it has kind of fallen off quite a bit, especially with other dragon types that have come into the game ever since it was first released. I still think Dragonite is really good, especially if you were to get the Shadow version of Dragonite. That is going to be a high DPS Pokemon, but what we do know is that Dragonite is eventually going to get a Mega Evolution. That Mega Evolution is going to be really good. It may not necessarily be as good as, let's say, Mega Rayquaza, but I still predict that Mega Dragonite is going to be top tier, and you will definitely want to use it. So I will say Dragonite, yeah, it's deserving to be considered a top non-legendary Pokemon, at least in my opinion. Maybe you disagree with me, but I will say that this Pokemon is tried and true for a very good reason. Alright, now the next non-legendary Pokemon, which I consider to be one of the best, is going to be Chandelure. Now, of course, Chandelure does not have a Mega Evolution, nor is it going to get a Mega Evolution as of now, but I will say this Pokemon is really good, especially the Shadow version. If you look at a lot of different raid guides, you will see that Shadow Chandelure often gets mentioned if the boss is weak against fire types or ghost types. The reason for that is because this is a high DPS Pokemon, and a lot of players may not realize this, but Chandelure is actually quite capable of dealing a lot of damage without getting knocked out really early. It's a very powerful choice. So I do think that if you were to have yourself any Shadow Chandelures, it's definitely worth investing into, and even regular Chandelures, if you have a bunch of those with high IVs, they're still going to be worth your Stardust and Rare Candy. Alright, next up, let's talk about the king of glass cannons, and this is of course going to be Gengar. The thing is with Gengar is that when you Mega Evolve it, it's going to be one of the highest DPS Pokemon in the game. And there's going to be a lot of raid bosses that are going to be weak against either poison types or ghost types, so Mega Gengar is definitely going to be one of the best. And I will say that when it comes to non-legendary Pokemon, Gengar is going to be pretty much in line with some of those legendary Pokemon that you come across. It's probably not as good as, let's say, like Dawnwing's Necrozma, even the Mega version, but I will say this is still considered top tier, especially when you consider what Pokemon are considered the best that are not legendaries. Alright, next up, this is going to be one of those Pokemon that I think is going to be considered a top tier Pokemon for pretty much the foreseeable future, and it's about to get a huge power boost very soon, and that is of course Metagross. Metagross is set to get a Mega Evolution starting this coming weekend, so it's definitely going to be one of those Pokemon that you will absolutely need to have in your collection. When it comes to Steel types, it's going to be one of the best Pokemon you could use by far, and when it comes to Mega Evolutions, it's going to be a top tier Pokemon as well. So I will say that Metagross is definitely one of the best Pokemon in the game. I think even among legendaries, there's going to be very few who are going to do more than Metagross in terms of damage or in terms of utility. I think it's a very useful Pokemon. Alright, and we're down to the last two Pokemon that I want to talk about, and second to the last Pokemon is going to be Mamoswine. So the thing is with Mamoswine is that there's not many ice types in the game. I don't even think there's that many Mega Evolutions that are worth using. Mamoswine is essentially one of the best Pokemon specifically for ice types. You're going to find this Pokemon in the Master League specifically because of its variety of different moves that it can have, but also in terms of raid battles, often you're going to see that Mamoswine is probably just the one Pokemon you should use. If you have a full team of 6 Shadow Mamoswine, you're going to easily solo raid bosses like Rayquaza and maybe some other Dragon type and Flying type, I really do not know, but at least for Rayquaza raids, if you were to have 6 Shadow Mamoswines, you're going to solo that raid boss with a lot of time remaining. That's just how powerful Mamoswine is. And on top of that, you do have a lot of versatility with its moves. So when it comes to the Master League, or I think even in the Ultra League, you're going to find that Mamoswine is incredibly useful because on top of it having some top tier ice type DPS, it could also deal some substantial ground type DPS as well as even rock type. So yeah, I think there's just a lot going on with this Pokemon, and it's definitely going to be top tier for a very long time. And then finally, a Pokemon that I consider to be one of the best non-legendary Pokemon in the game is actually my favorite pseudo-legendary in the entire Pokemon franchise, and that is going to be Garchomp. So Garchomp has all of the benefits of most of the Pokemon that I listed. It has the versatility of Tyranitar and Mamoswine in that it can be considered a top tier ground type or a top tier dragon type. It does have a Mega Evolution, and on top of that, it's incredibly tanky with a lot of attacks. So this is a very well-rounded Pokemon, and it's incredibly good. In some cases, you might want to use it in raid battles or even in PvP. You're going to see this Pokemon a lot in the Master League. It's just all around a really good Pokemon, and I really do think you need to invest into one, especially if you were to have a Shadow version. And fortunately, this Shadow version of this Pokemon is one that you often see when it comes to Team Go Rocket. So yeah, I really do think this is one of the best non-legendary Pokemon in the game, and I don't even think that's arguable. Yeah, Garchomp is that good. But in any case, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding all the Pokemon that I talked about down below. I'm really sure there's going to be certain Pokemon that people are going to be angry at the comments talking about how I missed it. I really do think there's just so many Pokemon that you can consider top tier So definitely share in the comments below what Pokemon you feel like should have been on this list. I condensed it down to these 10 because these are the 10 that I've been using the most and, in my opinion, are the most useful and the most well-rounded, in my opinion. And I could be completely wrong. If you disagree with me, then definitely share your thoughts in the comments below. I would really like to hear it, and yeah, let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that notification bell so you know exactly when I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Content channel, the best way you could do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. And if you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts, or things like that. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you could do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms you see right now on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow, and that'll be a huge help to my channel, and you'll have access to some exclusive content, and you'll be able to keep up with my daily life. With all that said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you all later.
진솔아와 함께해